So for the part 2 of our lesson week 2 to 3, we are going to discuss about the cradles of early science. So we are going to talk about the development of science in Mesoamerica, Asia, and Africa. First, let's go to Mesoamerica. Meso in Mesoamerica means middle. So this means middle of America or the continent America. So as you see here, we have first the Maya civilization. The Maya civilization, I know that we are all familiar of that. They are the most famous civilization that lasted for 2,000 years. Now, anong na-contribute nila sa science? They are actually known for astronomy. That's why most of their architecture have this dome-shaped temple wherein they use this as their temple and also to observe the skies, so for astronomical purposes or astronomical observations. Now, why do they need the knowledge about astronomy? They use this knowledge for their planting and harvesting cycles and also for their rituals. As you can see here, they have the Mayan calendar. So this Mayan calendar is a series of complicated calendar system siya. They use it again, or this is a result of their observation of the skies, and they use it for their religious rituals and for planting and harvesting. Now, what is most awesome about the Mayan civilization is their elaborate hydraulic system. They use this to divert waters from rivers in order for the water to flow into the community for the use of the people, and also not only for drinking water or for potable water, but also for their agriculture. They also have various tools and innovations, just like they can weave cloth. During that time, nag-weave na sila sa cloth. They use the mineral mica as a glittery paint. Next is they were using rubber during that time. Okay. Next is they have developed or they have devised their own writing system. We call that as Mayan hieroglyphics. They're also skilled in mathematics. They use these symbols to record numbers. And they have a number system that is based on the numeral 20. So they also know na what is the concept of zero. Next is the Inca civilization. So this picture shows you the Machu Picchu. And as you can see here, they have elaborate architecture already that despite this being in the 15th century pa, but it's still here intact. Okay? Surpassed many calamities or storms, just like that. So, kumbaga, very sturdy. Ano naman ang mga ideas and tools by the Inca civilization? They made mostly stones, their roads and their buildings. And as you can see here, nalagpasan ng mga earthquake and other disasters. Next is irrigation system as well. And here you can see they already have the calendar with the 12 months to mark, again, religious rituals or for agriculture. They also have the suspension bridge, and they have here a system of knotted ropes. Amo naman sila mag-record sang ilang numbers. We call that as kipu. And lastly, they also have their own cloth, Inca textiles. Next is the Aztec civilization. As you can see here, their own pyramids. Aztec civilization also has their own contributions to science and technology. They have mandatory education, also inclusive education. When we say mandatory, everyone should go to school. And when we say inclusive, it doesn't mean how old you are, kung PWD ka man ba, or if you are female or male, you can go to school. Next is chocolate. They use this as currency, pangbayan. Okay. Next is antispasmodic medication for spasms. And they also have the chinampa. This one, a form of agricultural technology wherein ang ilang mga crop land or a field is in a rectangular formation surrounded by water. And lastly, they have their Aztec calendar and they invented the canoe. Alright. Let's go now to Asia. As we all know, Asia is the biggest continent, and Let's first tackle about India. India is famous for their metal works. And in fact, ang ilang mga metal products is with high regard sa Roman Empire during that time. And of course, they're also famous for Ayurveda and Susruta Samhita. Ayurveda is their herbal medicines, something like that. And the Susruta Samhita is a text or a scribe that here it's written here ang mga different surgical procedures and medical procedures. So during that time, nag-perform na sila sa operation. Next is astronomy. They are very famous actually for astronomy. They were the ones that developed the configuration of the universe, the spherical cells supporting Earth. So they observed that it is in their culture that they built specific domes or observatories to look at the sky. And as you can see here, they were the ones that come up with a 360-day divided to 12 equal months and 30-day each nga calendar. Those were the Indians. Next is this book, Siddhanta Shiromani, which, as you can see here, it's full of topics about astronomy. Mean longitudes, true longitudes, diurnal rotation, lunar eclipse, solar eclipse, latitude, rising and setting of the sun, phases of the moon, and some things like that. So that's it. It's written pa sa 12th century. Next is also in ancient India, the Indus Valley Civilization. Diri makita ang earliest trace ng mathematical knowledge. Because may ara diri nga nakita sa pag-excavate nga ginatawag nga Mohenjo-daro ruler, which is do gitry na nila i-standardize or ginatry na nila measure ang mga sizes of things during that time in ancient India. The Mohenjo-daro ruler. And here we have Aryabhata. He is an Indian astronomer. These are people naman yung famous in India. Ginsulat niya ang Aryabhatiya. His name is Aryabhata. His book is Aryabhatiya. Gindiscuss niya di ang trigonometric functions and algorithms of algebra. Next is Brahmagupta. Brahmagupta, during 628 AD pa lang, nag-suggest na sa nga may gravity, yung ginatawag. Pero ang iyang pagintindi during that time is that gravity is a force of attraction. So, meron man siya sa concept nga nagagamit ng zero as placeholder and a decimal digit. That is Brahmagupta. Next here, this is Madhava. Wala siya apelido, but he is called the Madhava of Sangamagrama because he is from Sangamagrama. Siya ang founder sa mathematical analysis. Also an Indian to siya. Next, we go to China, also in Asia. They are, of course, famous sa ilang mga ginhubra nga trade sa ilang neighboring countries. And actually, these countries also belong sa ginatawag nga Silk Road because diri nagakatabo ang mga trades, which is mainly silk because during that time, silk is very a prized item, valuable item. For China, they are famous for their traditional medicine also, wherein may ala sila nga ginatawag nga acupuncture. They discovered various medical properties and uses of different plants as well, herbal medicine. For technology, they actually invented the compass, the process of paper making, gunpowder, and printing tools. And here are other tools that they invented. And I want you to note that they invented the first seismological detector for earthquakes. Next, of course, we all know the zodiacs. Amo ni ang ila pag-intindi sa astronomy. Okay, may ginatawag sila yung astrology, wherein divide nila sa zodiacs. They made significant records sa mga supernovas as well, and lunar and solar eclipses. I want you to know, they made significant records. So, it's because they invented the means of how to view these astrological activities. And of course, they use the lunar calendar. And as I've said earlier, seismology. That's why they are prepared in natural calamities, because they have that tool. So, I want you to take note about this statement by Needham. He said, "It may have been the religious and philosophical framework of Chinese intellectuals that made them unable to accept the ideas of laws of nature." Because as we all know, China is already a super country. But why is it nga may mga tao sila gyapon nga super behind or super sarado ang utak? Because it's their religious and philosophical framework. Nasa culture na kadaan nila. Okay? As we all know, China or the Chinese people is famous for poaching. Kaya kapati sila yung for example, in the pangolin, kapati sila nga scales ng pangolin, makabulong, which is hindi man scientifically proven. So, manggananon sila taning country, very maalaman sila, daw sila contribution sa science. But, may mga tawagin sila nga behind, kag mga close ang pamisaron because of their religion, kasi sila mga culture. So, that's it. Let's go na sa Middle East countries. May ginatawag sa una nga Golden Age of Islam. This Golden Age of Islam means that in the 13th century, damo sang Muslim people ang nag-excel sa ginatawag nga academics. Here are the factors nga nag-contribute sa pagkaalam sa mga Muslim during that time or ang ilang scholarship. Mayroon sila sa common language of Arabic, meaning, biskan anong kalapit sa Middle East, they understand each other because they have a common language. Next is, lapit sila sa Byzantine Empire. So, mayroon sila sa access sa Greek text. Kumaga, freely lang sila makakatuto and then access this Greek text. So, maka-gain sila more knowledge. And of course, as we've discussed earlier, pinakauna ng country nga discuss is India. Lapit man sila sa India. That's why doon napatungan din sila. So, there was a time where there may gitawag kitang Golden Age of Islam. Now, try to look at this. Muslim scientists place greater value on science experiments. If we can remember, Nicholas Copernicus, siya ang founder ng thought experiments. But Muslim scientists naman niya, mas ginagaan nila greater value on science experiments. So, kumbaga, if it's not falsifiable or if it's not experimentable, hindi sila gapati, agad-agad. So, they try to always go through science experiments in order to conclude something or in order to learn something. So, that's why nag-develop sila ng scientific method. So, here are the famous Muslim people. Si Ibn al-Haytham, siya ang father of optics. And ang iya topics is about the theory of light. So, that's why he is the father of optics, Ibn al-Haytham. Next is sa mathematics naman, si Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. So, if you can notice, ang mga term talaga algorithm, algebra. So, that's why they are called, ang ila terms is like that. It's because ang mga Muslim people na ang nag-come up sa mga topics or mga subjects. So, as you can see here, pangalan si Muhammad ibn al-Musa al-Khwarizmi because ang term nga algebra came from his word, his name, algebra. That's why algebra. So, that was the beginning of the titles ng iyang first nga book, gitackle niya about algebra. Now, siya man ang sa Arabic numeral system. This actually came from India originally, but because lapit lang sila sa India, so na-develop, kumbaga pa-refine nila or develop nila pagid to be better ang Arabic numeral system. So, remember, Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. Next, sa chemistry. So, during that time, actually, before, ang ginatawag, wala kita isang concept ng chemistry, but mayroon kita isang alchemy. So, it's because of Jabir ibn Hayyan nga nagkaroon sa ginatawag na chemistry. Because siya ang una, one of the first nga nag-venture into chemistry. So, siya ang father of chemistry. Next in medicine, si Ibn Sina, ang iyang book of healing, kag canon of medicine, was used in the 17th century sa mga Europeans. So, if you can remember, Muslim siya from Middle East, but ang book niya is highly used sa Europe as textbook para sa mga ga-eskwela medicine. So, ang iyang contributions is the discovery of contagious nature of disease and pharmacology. So, mostly diseases. That's Ibn Sina. His book is Book of Healing and Canon of Medicine. And as you can see here on the picture, nagkaroon sang decline in the Golden Age of Islam, nadula ang amotong intellect or amotong number of people nga may knowledge about specific subjects because may nagkaroon sang conquest of the Mongols. Ipangguba nila ang mga temples, ipangguba nila ang mga library. So that's why nagkaroon sang decline sa Golden Age of Islam. This was during the 11th to 13th century. So again, the conquest of the Mongols. Alright. Lastly, let's go to Africa. So when we say about Africa, madumduman din natin is Egypt. So it is still part of this Egyptian civilization is part siya sa Africa. Because middle siya sa Asia and Africa. So, there is a Egyptian civilization in the ancient Egypt na develop ang geometry. So, ang product nila of necessity to preserve the layout and ownership of farmlands, na-develop nila ang geometry. Kaya kinanglan nila i-plot ang mga farmlands and then hati-hation between themselves. Especially those ang nag-star sa Nile River. And of course, ang rules of geometry were also evident sa ilang mga architecture. As you can see here naman, very, kumbaga, may measurement gid or may standard gid sila ginasunod. Most especially sa pyramids. Here, it's like just like this. So the great structures of the Egyptian pyramids and ang ilang dams, nasingit ang dams ang ginalastakan sa tubig or para ma-divert ang tubig from the Nile River into the community. Ang una ang proof, okay? That proves how advanced their civilization is during that time. Also here, Egypt was also known sa alchemy. As I've said, kagina, alchemy is the forerunner of chemistry. Before there was chemistry, there was first alchemy. So, they tried to study human anatomy and pharmacology. Mayara sila sa ginatawag nga, doon nagpa-check up sila, nag-diagnose sila kung ano ang sakit, and then ginatry nila bulmon. And of course, ang ginatawag nga mummification. So, mayara sila sa ginatawag nga mummification, wherein, kung familiar ka mo, there are archaeologists and anthropologists that still ga-excavate sila sa mga mummies that are still, kumbaga, intact. So, it means na perfect nila sa Egyptian ang process of mummification. So, may advanced knowledge sila about human anatomy and ilaon nga medicine. Now, the ancient civilization man sa Egypt is also known for astronomy. Actually, they use pagani, tatlo pa ka types ang calendar. The lunar, solar, and stellar calendar. And also famous for metallurgy, metals again, because they also invent metal tools man. Ginagamit nila sa sulod balay, sa pagpamuma, and sa ilang architectures. As you can see, lined with gold or other metals ang ilang structures sa ilang architecture. And lastly, for our last slide, they are also famous for mathematics. So what is this called? This is called the Lebombo bone, which is, this may be a tool for multiplication. So, pwede nga calculator siya, tool for multiplication, division, or pwede man nga kalendaryo siya. Because, nakita nila ang mga lines nga ni is very proportionate with one another. So, it's either, it's a calculator, earliest calculator ever, or it's a calendar. So, this Lebombo bone is considered as the oldest known mathematical artifact. So, take note of that. So, that's it for the developments of science in Mesoamerica, Asia, and Africa.